Hello to the dietetics world. This podcast, Yogagetics, is brought to you by 3 of the world's future registered dietitians and nutritionists. Our names are Paige Helfen,
Jillian, Langan,
Esther, Ferguson.
And today's episode is going to teach you about the impact that the practice of yoga can have on your epigenetics as a whole. One of our future dietitians, Paige, is a yoga teacher, and later in the episode there will be an interview feature on one of her coworkers who has a bit to say regarding her personal experiences during her 200-hour yoga teacher training. So sit back and stay tuned. So to begin, there's both genetic and environmental impacts that can affect your genetics overall. So environmental impacts are things like your diet that your mom had when she was pregnant with you, drugs that you take or drugs that you've been exposed to during your mother's pregnancy, the diet you consume, etc. These are sometimes in our control, but oftentimes not. Genetic factors, however, are things like your predisposition for hypertension, what chromosomes you have, and whether or not you have brown or blue eyes. Sometimes there's a fine line between environmental and genetic factors if you think about the fact of nature versus nurture. For example, alcoholism. This can be a genetic trait passed down to people. However, someone's environment can also cause them to turn to alcohol, so it can vary at times. So while there's 2 factors being environmental and genetic impacts, there are also 2 kinds of epigenetics that can have an effect on your genetic code overall. These epigenetics can sometimes be reversed, which is what we're going to talk about regarding yoga pretty soon, but every single one is going to have a different impact. So some examples of positive epigenetics are supportive relationships in your life, maintaining a healthy diet, and having healthy habits overall. So yoga is a great example of that, which, like I said, this is called Yogagetics for a reason. And some examples of toxic or harmful epigenetics are drug abuse, stressful life circumstances, or making poor diet choices. There's many others that we could name in here, but these are just the main ones that we thought about regarding what we've learned in the course and about epigenetics overall. So what about yoga? According to the Journal of Clinical Epigenetics, yoga is an art form popularly known for its psychological benefits, which mainly includes reducing stress in the fast-paced modern world. When you hear from Hannah Mulherin, our yoga teacher that we decided to interview for this podcast, she'll touch on that a little bit. But this article specifically also mentioned that it has stated that 95% of conditions are not inherited and hence can be tackled by modifying one's lifestyle. So when it comes to epigenetics, yoga can technically reverse one of your epigenetic genes, which, again, we'll get into more specifics later. Yoga is one of the things that can have a positive impact on someone's epigenetics. Like we said, the practice itself is focused on mindfulness, but can also have anti-inflammatory effects that are caused by stress or serum cortisol, which is our stress hormone, or one of them. After our short interview with our 200-hour certified yoga teacher, you'll hear more. But for now, here's Hannah Mulherin. All right, what's your name and occupation?
I'm Hannah Mulherin. I am a master's student in the Department of Food Science and Human Nutrition, and I'm also a 200-hour yoga certified teacher at Yoga State in East Lansing.
Awesome. So what would you say yoga has had an impact on your physical health?
Physically, it's a really great workout. I've always worked out before really getting into yoga, so I wouldn't say there's been like a huge physical change, but I'm definitely more flexible, and it is really muscularly toning.
Would you say it impacted you mentally?
Yeah, I think yoga has had a much bigger mental impact than physical on me. Yoga teaches you how to be comfortable being uncomfortable, and in class you have to be able to control your breathing while you're doing these really challenging postures, and everything around you is going so fast, and I feel like I've been able to utilize what I've learned in yoga in my real life and staying calm under high pressure situations and just like getting comfortable being uncomfortable.
Awesome. Are you familiar with epigenetics, the concept of it?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, so it's basically the environmental impact on your genes. Would you say that yoga has a positive impact on them?
I think so. Yoga it reduces cortisol levels. It's also very good for your physical health. So with what I know about epi, I feel like it just makes you a stronger human, and you can reflect better, and you're like kinder to other people and yourself. And yeah, I think it definitely has an impact on your physical health from a molecular level.
Awesome. Thank you. So now that we have some great information thanks to our 200-hour yoga teacher and graduate student, Hannah Mulheron, I will now be talking about the science behind epigenetics and why it's reversible through yoga. So the unique thing we've learned about epigenetics is that chromatin complexes are subject to change based on certain factors that we discussed prior. So that's when we talked about genetic or environmental impacts. So theoretically, practicing yoga can help you, quote unquote, loosen some of the positive epigenetics that will improve your overall health. So for example, the gene that expresses inflammation can be reversed by practicing yoga because a regular yoga practice lowers NF-κB levels and cytokine levels, according to the Journal of Clinical Epigenetics. These factors control our body's inflammation levels in reaction to stress. So the more that you practice yoga, the more they're being basically exposed to stress, which helps you reverse them by giving them that exposure. But now we're going to hear from Jill, and she's going to tell us a little bit about the science regarding meditation that's practiced with yoga.
Thanks, Paige. With the many methods practiced in yoga, specific ones like transcendental meditation and kirtan kriya have been studied to show that meditation affects hormone levels and neurotransmitters that are affected by stress. These include cortisol, a stress hormone involved in fight or flight, epinephrine, a hormone and neurotransmitter released during acute stress, norepinephrine, which is similar to epinephrine, serotonin, a hormone that stabilizes mood and feeling of well-being, melatonin, which is a hormone that controls the sleep-wake cycle, and GABA, the neurotransmitter that is a relaxant of the brain and nervous system. All of these are inhibited by the practice of yoga and produce physical relaxation and inner silence. Though epigenetics cannot change DNA sequences, they can change how the body reads a DNA sequence. There are many different ways that epigenetics affects gene expression, including DNA methylation, which adds a chemical group to DNA that blocks proteins from attaching to DNA and reads a gene. Methylation turns a gene on, demethylation turns a gene off. Second is histone modification, which DNA wraps around these proteins, and when they are packed together tightly, the proteins cannot access the DNA, so it is turned off. When they are loosely packed, DNA is turned on. Last is non-coding RNA, which helps control gene expression by attaching to coding RNA and recruits proteins to modify histones to turn the genes on and off. According to the article, meditation and yoga can reverse DNA reactions which cause stress. It says mind-body interventions, or MBIs, include meditation, yoga, and Tai Chi. The act of doing yoga has molecular significance on cells. Yoga and meditation can reverse the effect of stress and anxiety and would change the way the genes are expressed. As well, MBIs cause the brain to go down a path that improves our well-being. Though this cannot only be done with just yoga, good nutrition plays a role as well. So Esther, talk to us some more about stress and disease and how it's related to yoga.
Thanks, Jill. Now I'll get into stress and disease in relation to epigenetics. There are two influential components that affect change in DNA methylation. These components are external and internal. Examples of external influences are pollution, a stressful workplace, and lifestyle, while examples of internal influences are anxiety and trauma. Research on DNA methylation have shown a relation to stress that produce the epidemic change. These changes occur along the HPA stress pathway that starts in the hypothalamus that releases a message and it sends it to the pituitary gland to release various hormones that Jill discussed earlier. DNA methylation along this pathway is associated with higher chance in developing, according to the research, breast cancer, small cell lung cancer, borderline personality disorder, depression, Alzheimer's, post-traumatic stress disorder, or also known as PTSD, chronic kidney disease, and hypertension. These epigenetic changes along the HPA pathway are related to increased stress, as the research has shown. Okay, so now I'm going to discuss health advantage and the reason why you should practice yoga and the changes that can happen, epigenetic changes. So several studies on mindfulness along with studies on religious pursuits and its relation to health have shown improved health outcomes among the people they had followed with various diseases. And the reason why is also because of the two things that had shared spiritual affiliations and mind-body therapy was also a sense of community and a sense of belonging as well. And so these are all health advantages that can help, that are associated with yoga and reducing stress.
While our credits play, we just wanted to say thank you for taking the time to tune into our podcast, Yogagetics, with Esther, Paige, and Jill. And we hope to see you next time. Also, just a special shout out to our guest speaker / interviewee, Hannah Mulheron, who is actually getting her master's in food science human nutrition department here at Michigan State. But now, just for fun, here are the faces of your future registered dietitians and nutritionists behind the camera of this podcast. Thanks for watching.